Once upon a time, in a quiet town, there was a high school named Riverdale High. In Class 10B, there sat a boy named Aarav, always at the very last bench, quiet, unnoticed, and often ignored. His clothes were old, his shoes worn out, and his eyes always downcast. He rarely spoke unless asked, and most students believed he was just ... average. The teachers often overlooked him. He wasn't the top scorer, didn't play sports, and never participated in competitions. Other students called him the invisible boy. He would walk home alone, carrying a school bag that had seen better days. But no one knew Aarav's story. Every day after school, he would rush to a small tea stall where he worked till late night. His father was paralyzed, and his mother cleaned homes to make ends meet. Aarav studied under streetlights and helped his younger sister with her homework every night before sleeping. Despite all this, he never complained. He had one dream: to become an engineer and build a better life for his family. The turning point: one day, a new teacher, Mr. Mehra, joined the school. He was young, energetic, and believed every student had potential. He noticed Aarav sitting quietly at the back, scribbling something in his notebook. After class, Mr. Mehra asked, "May I see what you're writing?" Aarav hesitated, then slowly handed over the notebook. It wasn't class notes, it was full of engineering diagrams, machine parts, and handwritten codes. Mr. Mehra was surprised. "You did all this on your own?" he asked. Aarav nodded, shyly. The next day, Mr. Mehra made a surprise announcement. "There will be a science exhibition in 2 weeks. I expect everyone to participate." Students groaned, but Aarav's eyes lit up for the first time. That evening, Aarav told his mother, "I want to build something." She smiled with tired eyes and gave him a small box of saved coins, saying, "It's not much, but dreams don't wait." The project. For the next 2 weeks, Aarav worked day and night. He collected scrap parts from junkyards, borrowed books from the local library, and used every minute of his free time building a small, solar-powered water purifier, a machine that could purify dirty water using solar energy, meant for villages without clean water. On the day of the exhibition, Aarav stood next to his model quietly, while other students showed flashy robots and colorful charts. At first, no one paid attention to his project, but when the judges, including some local scientists, saw how effective and low-cost his machine was, they were stunned. One of them said, "This boy just solved a real-world problem." By the end of the day, Aarav was declared the winner. Recognition and reward the next morning. The newspaper headline read, "Last Bench Boy Builds Hope for Villages." From that day, Aarav was no longer invisible. He got a scholarship from the state government. An NGO offered to mass-produce his purifier. And most importantly, his classmates who once ignored him, now looked at him with respect. One boy even said, "We were so wrong about you." Aarav smiled and replied, "You only saw the bench I sat on, not the battles I was fighting." Years later, 5 years later, Riverdale High held a special assembly. A luxury car pulled up, and out came a confident young man in a crisp suit. Engineer Aarav Malhotra, the guest of honor. He walked up to the stage and said, "I was the last bench boy once, but benches don't define your future. Your dedication, your honesty, and your dreams do. Don't judge anyone by how they look or where they sit. Some of the brightest minds sit quietly in corners, waiting for just one person to believe in them." The entire auditorium stood in applause. Moral of the story: never judge someone by where they sit, how they look, or how quietly they live. Everyone has a story. Some just need a chance. And sometimes, the smallest light can shine the brightest, if only someone lets it. In a peaceful town named Willow Creek, there lived a 14-year-old boy named Ethan. He was clever, quick-witted, but often mischievous. His favorite pastime: pulling pranks. Though his heart wasn't bad, Ethan rarely thought about the consequences of his actions. He would loosen bike tires, ring doorbells, and run, and hide his classmates' notebooks for fun. One chilly autumn afternoon, Ethan and his 2 friends were walking past a big house at the edge of town. This house was old and quiet, owned by Mrs. Alder, an elderly woman who rarely stepped out. Many believed she was a witch because of her strange habits and messy garden. She probably has treasure in there, joked Ethan, or potions, said another. Feeling bold, Ethan picked up a small stone and threw it at the second-floor window. Crash! The glass shattered. His friends froze. Run! Ethan yelled, and they all took off laughing. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. The sound of breaking glass echoed in his ears. He remembered Mrs. Alder's face, a tired, wrinkled woman who walked with a cane. She didn't even know who did it. The next morning, he overheard in school that Mrs. Alder had fallen trying to cover the broken window and was now in the hospital with a fractured leg. Ethan's stomach twisted. Unable to take the guilt anymore, Ethan went to the hospital with a small bouquet and a trembling heart. When he entered the room, Mrs. Alder looked up, her eyes calm, not angry. I'm sorry, Ethan whispered, almost shaking. I was the one who threw the stone. There was silence. Then she smiled. I figured, she said softly. But thank you for telling the truth. That takes courage. Ethan was confused. You're not mad? I was upset. But more than that, I was lonely. The window wasn't just glass, it was where I watched the world. Ethan felt his chest tighten. From that day, Ethan visited her every evening after school. He read her books, brought her soup, and even cleaned her garden. Slowly, they became friends. He learned that Mrs. Alder had once been a school teacher who lost her only son in an accident. Since then, she had lived in silence. When she returned home weeks later, her house had new curtains, fresh flowers in the yard, and a repaired window, all done by Ethan and his dad. Ethan was no longer the prankster of the school. His teachers noticed his change. He became kinder, more thoughtful. One day, his friend asked, "Dude, you've changed. What happened?" Ethan replied, "I broke a window, but I fixed a life, and mine too." Ethan grew up to be a counselor for troubled youth, helping kids like his younger self. And every time he passed an old house with a clean window and a garden full of roses, he smiled. Because sometimes, it takes breaking something to finally see clearly. Moral of the story, our actions, even the small ones, affect others. Guilt can be heavy, but owning your mistakes and making things right leads to growth, healing, and true strength.